Hi, I'm Jason and welcome to DS University. Thank you for choosing the Etatron eMP metering pump for the solution to your water treatment needs. In this video, we show how to install the eMP and run through its initial operation. It's best to install the eMP in a clean area, so make sure to cover your chemical bucket so you don't lose any parts. The Etatron eMP box includes an eMP metering pump, mounting bracket, screw and wall anchor kit, tubing kit, quick start guide, operating manual, and a 3mm Allen wrench. The tubing kit includes injection valve for 3/8 or 1/2 connection, foot filter, 6.5 feet of rigid polyethylene discharge tubing, clear flexible PVC suction tubing, and PVC bleed-off tubing. You will also need thread seal tape, diagonal pliers or cutters, and a small towel, none of which are included in the eMP metering pump box. To begin, attach the mounting bracket to the wall. Either use the screw and wall anchor kit or your own hardware. Make sure the arrow on the bracket is pointed in the up direction. Do not plug the eMP metering pump into the power supply until installation is complete. Slide the eMP metering pump onto the mounting bracket. Discharge valve. To continue the installation, locate the discharge valve at the top of the pump head. Remove the discharge valve tube nut, collar, and nozzle. Set all three aside. Make sure to not lose the blue O-ring underneath the tube nozzle and sitting on the discharge valve. Open the tubing kit and take out the rigid polyethylene discharge tubing. Set the tubing kit aside. Using diagonal pliers, cut and remove the string holding the tubing together. Slide the outside opening of the tube nut onto one end of the rigid polyethylene discharge tubing. Slide the collar onto the tube and make sure the collar's crown is pointing away from the tube nut. Grab the nozzle and insert the pointed end into the opening of the same tube. Push the collar and nozzle together as close as possible. Pull the tube nut toward the nozzle to compress the collar and nozzle tight together, forming a ferrule connection. Attach the tube and tube connections onto the discharge valve by hand tightening the tube nut. Do not cross-thread nor over-tighten. If the tube nut is not securing, recheck the ferrule connection. Pull the tube nut toward the nozzle once more to compress the collar and nozzle together. Retighten the tube nut until secure. Injection valve. Install the injection valve by grabbing it out of the tubing kit and remove its tube nut, collar, and nozzle. Set the connections aside. Take the thread seal tape and wrap it around the threads of the injection valve for the necessary size, either 3/8 or 1/2. Install and hand tighten the injection valve into the installation saddle or T in the supply line. Once again, do not over-tighten. Next, grab the rigid polyethylene discharge tube connected to the discharge valve. Using diagonal pliers or cutters, cut the tube so that it runs comfortably from the discharge valve to the injection valve. If the tubing is too snug, the tubing connection will come loose and produce a leak. Reattach the tube connections onto the loose end of the connected discharge tubing and be mindful of the orientation for the tubing connections. Push the collar and nozzle together as close as possible. Pull the tube nut toward the nozzle to compress the collar and nozzle tight together, forming a ferrule connection. Attach the tube and tube connections onto the injection valve by hand tightening the tube nut. Do not cross-thread nor over-tighten. If the tube nut is not securing, recheck the ferrule connection. Pull the tube nut toward the nozzle once more to compress the collar and nozzle together. Retighten the tube nut until secure. Suction valve. To set up the suction tubing, locate the suction valve at the bottom of the pump head and remove the tube nut, collar, and nozzle. Set these items aside. Make sure not to lose the blue O-ring directly at the bottom of the suction valve. Remove the clear flexible PVC tubing from the tubing kit. Using diagonal pliers, cut and remove the string holding the tubing together. Attach the tubing connections onto the loose end of the tube and be mindful of their orientation. Push the collar and nozzle together as close as possible. Pull the tube nut toward the nozzle to compress the collar and nozzle tight together, forming a ferrule connection. Attach the tube and tube connections onto the suction valve by hand tightening the tube nut. Do not cross-thread nor over-tighten. If the tube nut is not securing, recheck the ferrule connection. Pull the tube nut toward the nozzle once more to compress the collar and nozzle together. Retighten the tube nut until secure. Foot filter. To connect the foot filter, cut the PVC suction tubing attached to the suction valve so that the foot filter will comfortably sit in the chemical bucket in a vertical position. Grab the foot filter from the tubing kit and remove its tube nut, collar, and nozzle. Set the connections aside. Grab the foot filter and shake it back and forth. You should hear a ceramic ball moving freely inside. If not, separate the foot filter into 3 pieces by popping the filter basket from the filter body. The filter seat may stick to the filter body. Make sure it rests in the filter basket instead to avoid losing the ceramic ball. Set the filter body aside and locate the ceramic ball in the filter seat. If there is no ceramic ball, call Dilution Solutions at 1-800-451-6628 for assistance. Pull the filter seat out of the filter basket and set the filter basket aside. Pour the ceramic ball out of the filter seat and into your hand. Set the filter seat down and use a small towel to wipe the ceramic ball clean. Do not misplace it. Put the ceramic ball back into the filter seat and then put the filter seat back into the filter basket. Insert the filter basket into the filter body and forcefully pop them together. This may take a couple of tries. Please be sure not to misplace the ceramic ball. Pull on the 2 sections to make sure they are connected securely. Shake the foot filter back and forth once more, verifying the ceramic ball is moving freely. Set the foot filter aside. Grab the PVC suction tubing hanging down from the suction valve and attach the tube connections onto the loose end of the PVC suction tubing, and be mindful of the orientation for the tubing connections. Push the collar and nozzle together as close as possible. Pull the tube nut toward the nozzle to compress the collar and nozzle tight together, forming a ferrule connection. Grab the foot filter and reattach the tube and tube connections onto the foot filter by hand tightening the tube nut. Do not cross thread nor over tighten. If the tube nut is not securing, recheck the ferrule connection. Pull the tube nut toward the nozzle once more to compress the collar and nozzle together. Retighten the tube nut until secure. Place the foot filter into the bucket or stock tank. This ensures the foot filter draws chemistry once you begin operation. Air bleed barb. Finally, take the smaller remaining PVC tubing out of the tubing kit. Using diagonal pliers, cut and remove the string holding the tubing together. Locate the manual air bleed barb on the upper left section of the pump head and slide one end of the PVC tubing over the barb. Use the diagonal pliers to cut the tube so that it is long enough for the chemical bleed off to go into the bucket or stock tank. Initial setup and priming. Locate the eMP metering pump lead wires as well as the water meter lead wires and connect the 2 sets of wires together. Polarity typically does not matter, but if it does, the white wire of the eMP is positive. Connect the eMP metering pump to the power supply. The power LED will light up green and the pump is now in setup mode. Press the start-stop button once and the power LED will light up red. The pump is now in standby mode. Open the air bleed valve on the top left of the pump head and hold down the start-stop button for about 5 seconds. The eMP should start stroking or clicking, and chemical should start coming up the suction tube. Once chemical starts going down the bleed-off tube, close the air bleed valve on the pump head. Chemical should now go up the discharge tube and into the injection valve. When the priming process completes, the eMP metering pump stops stroking and the power LED will light up red. Press the F button and select the program to match your water meter. Either 1 pulse per 1 gallon or 1 pulse per 10 gallons. Once again, press the start-stop button. The power LED will light up green. The pump is now in setup mode, waiting for a signal from the water meter. If you need to use the 15 to 40 scale, press the F button while the eMP is in standby mode and the LED will light up green. Please note, the pump will go through a complete cycle on the first signal from the water meter. On the second signal, and every signal thereafter, the pump will slow down or speed up to pace out the chemical delivery. The eMP learns the water flow and adjusts the strokes accordingly. If you are using a 1 pulse per 1 gallon water meter, the pump will go through its complete cycle on the first signal. It will then skip 9 signals and begin to stroke on the 10th signal. We hope this video has been helpful with installing your eMP metering pump. For more information, please call us at 1-800-451-6628 or visit us online at dilutionsolutions.com. I'm Jason at DS University. Thanks for watching.